Have you ever heard of a mysterious letter that changed the course of mathematical history? Greetings everyone. Today, we unravel the life of Srinivasa Ramanujan, the mathematical wizard of India. From his humble beginnings to his groundbreaking formulas, discover how this self-taught prodigy became a legend in the world of mathematics. If you find this video interesting, please support us by hitting the like button. Now, let's get started. Born in India in 1887, Ramanujan would later shake the world of mathematics. What were Ramanujan's parents like? His father was a clerk in a clothing store, and his mother was involved in religion in a Hindu temple. Deeply rooted in their faith, they were devout Hindus. They were also a poor family. There is an episode from Ramanujan's childhood, when one day at school, his teacher told him that if you divide anything by its number, the answer will be 1. For example, if you divide 3 apples among 3 people, each person gets 1. When the teacher explained this, Ramanujan raised his hand and asked this question. So, if you divide 0 by 0, does it equal 1? While some might dismiss this as a child's quibble, it showcased Ramanujan's innate curiosity. One of his defining characteristics was his ability to solve intricate mathematical problems. This did not change even when he grew up. These inquiries paved the way for discoveries that would later astonish mathematicians, leaving them wondering about the origins of Ramanujan's insights. Ramanujan's family operated a boarding house for students from a nearby university. Ramanujan absorbed knowledge from the students who stayed at the boarding house. So, he asked them to borrow books from the university library. And they lent him a book, which, despite its challenging content, helped him master trigonometry and calculus at the university level by the age of 13. In 1904, at the age of 17, Ramanujan discovered what would become the book of his dreams. A basic outline of pure and applied mathematics, penned in 1886 by the English mathematician George Carr. It is said that this one book with about 6,000 theorems awakened the talent of Ramanujan, an Indian magician. This is interesting, because most of the theorems introduced in this book are written without proofs. They are written in a very straightforward manner. The straightforward presentation of mathematics in this book deeply impressed Ramanujan, leading him to adopt a similar writing style. So, in the notebooks that Ramanujan left behind during his life, the genius theorems and formulas he discovered are written without proofs, just like this book. Some of the notes Ramanujan left behind were not proven until decades after his death, and some were only recently proven. Such was his genius that many of his discoveries were ahead of his time. Now, let's return to Ramanujan's childhood. He was absorbed in mathematics. He had no friends at all. He didn't talk at all with other kids his age. And because of his good grades in high school, he was able to get a scholarship. He went to college, but by this time, Ramanujan's interest in math had exploded, partly because of that George Carr book. He had no interest in anything but math, and even in history class, his head was full of calculations. So, he couldn't cope well with subjects other than math. And his scholarship was terminated. His family was poor, and without the scholarship, it would have been impossible for him to continue his studies. Having no choice but to find a job, Ramanujan decided to start job hunting. Let's see how this talent was not buried and discovered by the world under these circumstances. Seeking employment, Ramanujan approached the founder of the Indian Mathematical Society and presented his notebook filled with mathematical discoveries. The founder was amazed. He thought it would be a shame to bury this genius, and introduced Ramanujan to several of his friends. However, in 1912, Ramanujan ended up working for a meager salary at the Bureau of Accounts as a de facto human calculating machine. After work, he taught himself mathematics. He was deeply passionate about mathematics and persisted in his studies. In 1912, he began sending letters detailing his findings to scholars at prestigious universities abroad. A remarkable feat in an era without the internet. He sought recognition and yearned for others to appreciate his research. To connect with the cutting edge of mathematical research, he needed to head west. However, the way he wrote the letters was too novel for them to be interested at all. 2 professors at the prestigious Cambridge University in England turned his paper back. There was no way to get around it. However, Ramanujan did not give up and continued to write letters. Then, in 1913, Professor Hardy, an authority at Cambridge University, received a mysterious letter from a stranger from India with a mathematical discovery he had never seen before. I am a clerk in an Indian accountant's office, earning 20 a year. I am now 23 years old. I have evolved a certain theory of mathematics. I have also almost solved a long-standing problem of the distribution of prime numbers. And another piece of paper contained only the result. Yes, Ramanujan was writing in the form of that example book, as usual. At this time, Cambridge University was very active with this. Hardy and another genius professor named Littlewood. This duo jointly wrote 100 papers, and contributed greatly to the mathematical world in England at that time. The letter from Ramanujan contained some fascinating and astonishing discoveries, as well as things that the two of them already knew, given his lack of proper education. But most fortunately for us, Professor Hardy was a man who was very enthusiastic about training junior mathematicians. With this opportunity, Hardy scrambled to make it possible for Ramanujan to come from India to England and Cambridge to study. He wrote letters to various quarters and even offered to fund it himself. Ramanujan showed us an important lesson: the importance of never losing heart and keeping in touch with many people, in order to find a place where you can flourish, and to continue with humility. Ramanujan continued his quest for mathematics with humility and sincerity. These actions attracted people around him who supported his research. Upon arriving in England from India, Ramanujan confronted not just advanced mathematical challenges, but also significant cultural shifts and the potential for isolation. Yet, his passion for mathematics remained undeterred. Professor Hardy was top-notch in education, and skillfully taught Ramanujan mathematics. He was particularly careful not to lose Ramanujan's signature daring approach to education. According to a contemporary, Professor Bertie, Ramanujan was able to calculate complex equations and complicated multiplication theorems with an unprecedented self-taught process. It is impossible to teach him such systematic things from the beginning. But it is also impossible for him to remain ignorant in this way, for the sake of his growth. That is why I teach him. This is also a wonderful thing about Professor Hardy's humanity. He never had any pride or jealousy as a fellow mathematician, nor any thoughts of stealing Ramanujan's wisdom for his own honor. The encounter with Professor Hardy became a treasure in the life of the eccentric Ramanujan. In the 3 years following this encounter, Ramanujan's talents blossomed. He made major contributions to mathematical analysis, number theory, infinite series, and continued fractions. Ramanujan possessed an uncanny intuition for predicting which functions would emerge. Typically, the study of mathematics involves building upon known concepts and addressing emerging problems. Conversely, Ramanujan, an unorthodox thinker, would spontaneously identify intriguing concepts and develop theories based on his unique intuition. Under Professor Hardy's guidance, Ramanujan published numerous papers. The professor also helped Ramanujan prepare his findings for his dissertation. For the first few years after his arrival in England, everything seemed to be going well. But while Ramanujan was living a full life in terms of mathematics, his body was actually slowly being affected by a disease. Ramanujan was a strict vegetarian for religious reasons. And in 1914, with the start of World War I, food was rationed, making it difficult for the vegetarian Ramanujan to eat. He also became so engrossed in mathematics that he frequently forgot to eat. Ramanujan's body broke down and he entered a sanatorium. In addition to life, loneliness also aggravated his mental condition. He wrote to his wife repeatedly, but received no reply. In fact, Ramanujan's mother had intercepted a letter written by her son to his wife and hid it. Eventually the correspondence stopped, and by the time he entered the sanatorium, he had received no contact from his family at all. But a genius is a genius, no matter how poorly he is doing. Here is a terrific episode of Ramanujan on his sickbed. When Professor Hardy went to visit Ramanujan in the hospital, he remarked, "I can't believe the cab number to get here was 1729. It seems like such a boring number." To this, Ramanujan immediately replied, "No, it's very interesting. It's the smallest number that can be expressed as the sum of two cubes in two different ways." Even though he was sick, Ramanujan could figure this out instantly. Later, in an effort to encourage Ramanujan, Professor Hardy, and those who understood him scrambled to get him properly evaluated and made a member of the prestigious Royal Society. In 1918, Ramanujan became the second Indian ever to become a member of the Royal Society. In 1919, Ramanujan returned to India, greeted by his mother and siblings. Seeing his frail condition, his mother abandoned her initial wish to purify him at the temple. "Where is my wife?" These were Ramanujan's first words when he met his family. Unbeknownst to him, his mother had not even informed his wife about his return to India. So she did not come to greet Ramanujan. Then, after getting his wish, Ramanujan started living with his wife. Yet, he always held onto the hope of returning to England to pursue mathematics. But gradually his health deteriorated further, and in bed, in pain and fever, Ramanujan concentrated on his work on data functions. He wrote pages and pages and continued to share them with Professor Hardy in England. Nearby, his wife, Janaki, watched over Ramanujan tenderly. "If only you had come to England with me," Ramanujan said many times, "I wouldn't be sick like this." Ramanujan remained devoted to his beloved mathematics until just 4 days before his death. In 1920, the genius Ramanujan tragically passed away at the young age of 32. In his final years, he delineated around 600 mathematical formulas in his characteristic style, often without accompanying proofs. 100 years have passed since Ramanujan's death. Since then, scientists around the world have continued to challenge Ramanujan's formulas. And the formulas he left behind continue to help many people today. The extraordinary genius of Ramanujan graced the world for a mere 32 years, but his legacy is eternal. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more insightful content. Take care and see you in the next video. Goodbye.